Confirmation and Public Elections Committee is now coming to order. Today is Tuesday, December the 18th, 2018. And our first agenda item, although I will ask the indulgence of my committee if we can go down and do the resolutions first.
Sure.
Okay, so the first one on the agenda is Resolution RS 2018-1558, honors the life and the legacy of San Francisco Supervisor Harvey Milk upon the occasion of the 40th anniversary of his assassination. And I think I saw the sponsor here. Would you like to speak to that resolution?
I'll go ahead and move the bill.
Second.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity to do this. Harvey Milk was assassinated 40 years ago, and this resolution, upon some discussion with fellow Councilmember Brett Withers and others, we were able to work with Mike Jameson on appropriate language that ties together that legacy with what has happened here in Davidson County. There's a segment of the resolution that says simply, there is no nobler response than to continue these and other efforts in pursuit of the equality Milk envisioned more than 40 years ago. In that effort, the people of Nashville and Davidson County continue to stand in unison with the LGBT community. There's no question in my mind that a lot of the new folks moving to Nashville are moving here because of our welcoming community. In discussions, particularly with organizations like Amazon, Alliance Bernstein, Ernest Young, some of their decision of coming to Nashville was because of our LGBT community. And I want to be able to acknowledge that the work that we have done in Davidson County has led to prosperity, both in spirit and in soul.
Is there any other discussion?
Move for approval.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. The ayes have it. Our next resolution is RS 2018-1530 by Councilperson Bettany, and it requests that the Tennessee General Assembly establish a fund to cover property owners' losses from diminished property values following the preemption and the ordinance number BL 2016-234. May I have a motion in order to bring this before us?
Motion. Second.
It has been motioned and seconded. Councilmember Bettany, would you like to speak to your resolution?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I want to thank the council for supporting the original legislation that its goal was to go up to the state Tennessee board and ask that they allow us to use zoning as a way to make decisions about uses that were creating pollution in the environment, like gas compression stations. And the council supported that motion after debate and adjustments, and it was supported. So we went to the Tennessee board, and the Tennessee board decided against us. But immediately after, the Tennessee legislature decided to do a law preempting this legislation, making it impossible for zoning to be used on issues like this. So originally, I knew that our opportunity to empower residents to decide what gets built in their community was slim when it came to interstate commerce, and that this was one very lawful way for us to allow residents to decide what gets built next door. And if the state wouldn't have done anything, then I would have just walked away and that was the end of it. But the moment they took a side on this issue and they decided to preempt Nashville and other cities from doing this, it was for me a sign that they were taking sides on this issue against the wishes of the community. So moving forward, the station started to get built, and recently people that live in that community have started to complain to me and to other council members about their loss of property values. because having this industrial use next door is creating impact on their ability to recover the money they invested in their property. So in thinking about, they were asking, who's going to pay for this, right? So I started thinking that because the state decided to take a stand against them by denying them the ability to have influence in the zoning process, that it was appropriate to give them an opportunity to make it right to the residents. So this is what this resolution does, is asking the state to set up a fund and to help the state make people that lost property values, make them whole, and have an opportunity for them to cover that loss that they did. I will leave it to the state legislators to decide how to implement such policy, but I think we should ask them to consider taking responsibility for their actions against the wishes of residents in Davidson County.
Any members have questions?
Yes, I do have a question. I am the original, co-sponsor of the air quality bill because I believe as a city government, we should have power to control, health and welfare of our people who live in this, Nashville and Davidson County. My question is, so why did you choose the property value instead of health and quality of the community to the purpose of the fund?
It was really because that was what the community was bringing up to me. It's a measurable thing, easy to measure, let's say, for lack of a better word, because they can do comparables to properties that are farther away from the industrial use and clearly see how their properties are suffering the impact of this. This happens both in Jolton and in Davidson County. And actually, you guys could get a gas compression station in your districts because now the state had made it impossible for us to have any say stopping this. So any place in Davidson County where there is a fracking pipeline coming across the city, they can put another gas compression station. And you wouldn't be able to do anything to stop it. And so I think we should make allowances to protect people's property rights and property values. And I don't think it's up to Nashville to set up that fund because we didn't do this. We actually tried to help residents have a voice. I think it's up to the state, who took a very militant, active role in denying residents the ability to have a say. They basically put a hand over their mouth and deny them the ability to speak. So that's why I think it's up to them to make it whole.
Any other?
Oh, go ahead.
So one more follow-up question. To Mr. Jameson, is this, again, a non-binding resolution, just a statement from us, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I sort of feel like the chance of the state doing anything is somewhere in the vicinity of 0, and maybe less, I don't know. And we got enough problems with the state that I feel like this is, with all respect to my colleague, a little intentionally antagonizing when they're not going to do anything. And so, I wish that we wouldn't pass this. I have a feeling it's going to sort of cruise through today, but I don't know. It just feels like to the extent we're unhappy with what the state did, and there's no amount of, turning the other cheek, and instead of just poking them in the eye for them poking us in the eye. And I don't know. On something that they're not going to do, I don't see the point.
I think her hand was first and then yours.
I'll just make a comment. I am supportive of this piece of legislation, and I'm not particularly concerned as much about what the state necessarily think about it. I think what it does is it sends a message back to them that people in the community who are impacted by these decisions, the effect of it. Oftentimes we make decisions and they don't really know what the impact is. They know that compression station went there, but what they don't know is that they didn't build it as far back as they agreed to. It's visible from the road. The noise is not where it says it's going to be. And despite what anyone says, when people go and purchase homes, whether they're in rural areas or they're in metropolitan cities, and they invest in the community, zoning is a part of their protection, which the state has given us the ability, and the local government have, is to effect zoning. And when we purchase our home, you know, we're dependent upon that zoning of property around us to be what they say it's going to be. And we do not put industrial companies next door to residential. And that's one of the things we have been able to do legislatively. And when you have a state legislature that comes in and say that, you know, we can put this mass industrial compression station next door, and it has environmental, health, noise, quality of life, and all those concerns, we do need to let them know that this is the impact, because these are hardworking people who purchase their homes, who now, you know, the value of their property has been lowered because it's not as valuable anymore. And so they've suffered a financial loss. And I think what it will send, maybe I agree with you, I think it's zero chance of them doing anything about it, but I think they will think about this as we go forward, because people in rural areas, you know, they're impacted by prisons going next door to them, waste fields and things like that. And as a state, we've got to become more environmentally responsible to our people. We're in the bottom of everything when it comes to health. So this is not necessarily all about economics, and I agree with you, Mina. This is also about quality of life and health, because right now we don't have health care for everybody, and this creates a health problem regardless whether they admit it or not. So I would ask that we all support it. And it is a good faith measure to send to them that this does impact our communities, and that we need to support local zoning laws and not get involved in preempting them.
I have one right here and then right here.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Council Lady, because everything that you've said, it's what's on my heart and my mind, and I could not have articulated it more eloquently than what you just did. And I strongly agree with you. And I guess when you think about being antagonistic to them, it could not be commensurate to how much they have antagonized us. You know what I'm saying? So the only thing I was going to add that you stated at the end of your narrative is that the fact that it's such a health concern related to that. I mean, and there were stats as they relate to the health concerns. So I actively, overwhelmingly agree with this, and you will be getting my vote.
Thank you.
So we've had a number of resolutions come through here over the past 3.5 years that are similar to this, asking the state legislature to do something, not do something along those lines. And so while I support the councilman from South Nashville, I've also got to support somewhat of what Councilman at Large Mendez is saying here, because as someone who has worked at the state legislature for the past 11 years, I have seen this battle rage on both sides, right? And so there are valid arguments that he has made and that Council Lady Dow has made. What I would like us to start doing as we enter the last legislative session of our term, whether some of us are term limited or not, but what I would like to see us do is start writing letters to the people that we pay to represent us, making sure that the mayor knows of these, not just that we're passing a resolution, but that our lobbying team is actively lobbying this position and is aware of our strife. And then additionally, we are represented by the Tennessee Municipal League, the County Officials Association. I mean, we get how many newsletters and magazines into our mailbox, and if we are not letting them know that this is affecting us, because yes, we are a little different than some of the other municipalities because we face things differently, but the people who we are paying membership dues and paying salaries to lobby on our behalf need to know that Councilman Betty is sick and tired of us having to do this because of that. And so I'd like to see us, and maybe for future resolutions that we pass, I know that they usually say our staff will prepare a copy and send them to all the, legislators, what have you, it needs to say our staff will send a copy to the municipal league, to the county officials, to, I can't name them all off the top of my head at this point, but do you see what I'm saying? We're like, I feel like a lot of times we feel like, well, we passed that resolution, we did, okay, we checked our boxes. I think that at some point we have to stop saying that we've checked our boxes when there are people that we are paying to represent us that somehow the message is not fully getting across, right? So we need to start utilizing our other ways to get the message across to the state legislature. And I am going to support this one, even though I don't think that the state legislature is going to make much of this is not going to make much of a difference to them. But symbolically, I support the cause here, but I want to start asking us, because at some point I am going to say I'm not going to continue to support resolutions like this, because I don't think that we're effectively using our voice if we're just passing these resolutions and not demanding that the people who represent us to the state legislature are not taking those next steps. So,
Yes,
Box.
Councilman.
I appreciate all the comments, and I want to repeat that this is not me going out of my way to antagonize Casada or anybody in the legislature. This is me just trying to do what my constituency asked me to do. They said, who's going to cover the losses to my property values?
Exactly.
Who's going to do that? And so I'm trying to answer that question. I'm trying to give the state an opportunity to answer that question. So that's what I'm hoping that you will help me do.
Any other remarks?
I'm just gonna say, I
Did you
appreciate what
renew?
she said. I appreciate what you said about utilizing the resources we have.
We're
And I
gonna
agree.
take it to otherwise we're just gonna continue, have this conversation every couple of Tuesdays, every time that the legislature rolls around from January through May. So, thank you.
Did you renew your motion?
I'll renew my motion. I don't know if I made the motion.
It
Nobody
was,
made motion yet.
I make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion.
I think they did in order for him to bring it up.
Oh, yeah.
I think I
One
did
was
make a motion.
made,
I'll renew it.
Okay, so we going on with your chair.
I'll
has been
yield to the
moved.
chair.
This time, it has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any in disagreement, please, same sign. All right, it has been moved and seconded and voted, and thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, committee members.
I'll probably ask him first, let's take his medicine.
Yeah.
Okay, if we now can go back to the elections and confirmations, I would like to ask Mr. Aoli Asare, how close was I?
I'm sorry. Yes.
That was close.
To come forward, please, and Ms. Kate Bowers to come forward, please. The Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency, the appointment of Mr., I'm afraid to try it again.
We'll try it again.
Aoli Asare.
And sorry. Yes.
For the term expiring on November the 5th, 2023, and the appointment of Ms. Kay Bowers for the term expiring November the 5th, 2020. Ms. Bowers will fill the unexpired term of Mr. Jimmy Granberry. And I just have a couple of questions to ask you before we open it up for our team to ask you questions. And I'm going to start over here. I love saying ladies first. Are you a resident of Davidson County?
Yes,
Do you vote in Davidson County?
yes,
Do you belong on any other metro councils or commissions?
no,
Are you a resident of Davidson County?
Yes.
Do you vote here in Davidson County?
Yes, I did.
Do you belong on any more metro commissions or boards?
No.
Okay. Well, committee, I now open it up if you have any questions. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, Mr. Ansuri, thank you for your service to the Navy. Really appreciate it. And I would like to ask both of you, because interestingly, both of you has public-private relationship, a partnership in your career. And so, do you think MDHA will have opportunity to utilize private-public partnership, in particular reducing homeless or rather producing homeless housing.
I'll start. MDHA does have the capacity and tools in its toolbox, as I refer to them, to help address this issue. The lower the income that you're trying to serve, the harder it is to make the economics work. So you have to look to bring whatever leverage you can in affordable capital, whether that's federal dollars, sometimes state dollars, local dollars, to bear, and your capital stacks gets pretty complicated to make that work, but it's possible.
I guess my impression is that typically homeless, there are a number of layers of issues that are related to homeless that has a lot of things to do. It may not necessarily have to do with the production of a housing unit, typically with mental illness or drug uses and things of that nature. So I think what MDH can continue to do through its public-private partnership is try to create units that meet the market's needs through taking some component of public funding or public assets, as it whether it be through their real property or land, and partnering with the private sector to bring capital to produce units. I think if we can combine the ability to produce units, which I think the MDHA, what MDHA has the ability to do, and continue to work with other services throughout the city to deal with the other layers of issues that create homelessness, I think we can be effective.
Thank you. I think, traditionally, unfortunately, MDHA never produced the house as far as I'm serving on the Homelessness Commission. So I'm hoping you would, utilize your experience to explore, outside of the box in a way.
Go. You were first.
Yes.
So first of all, I just want to let everybody know, so I'm a volunteer member of Ms. Bauer's board, and because I'm a volunteer member, that doesn't create any conflict under the Metro rules, but I'm going to abstain on her vote, just an abundance of caution. I do have a couple questions for both of y'all, though. Both of you are involved in real estate, and I want to make sure that you both agree that if votes come along that impact projects that you're working on, that you would abstain from the votes.
Yes, I would.
That's right.
And then, secondly, I think I would like a commitment that when, I haven't actually read MDHA's conflict policies, but given the fact you guys might present new situations, if they're not covered by MDHA's conflict policies, you guys will speak up and let management and the board know, and if changes need to happen to appropriately take into account the business that y'all are in, that you guys will do that?
Yes.
Yes. We'll disclose it early and then refrain from any discussion, actions, or votes.
All right, thank you very much.
Any more? Yes. Oh,
No, mine is brief. I'd like to say you certainly setting the precedence by abstaining from the vote, and I think that's what you are articulating. I'd just like to say that both of your resumes are very, very impressive. Very.
council member?
I agree with Council Lady Haywood on that. One of the questions I've presented to the MDHA several times is that we're seeing rent increase within the city, and we're seeing generations and generations of people utilizing subsidized housing. And I would like to personally see us become a little more innovative. And I'm looking at some of the subsidy checks that people receive, and they're receiving them for years and on top of years. In fact, I counted a lady had been receiving subsidized housing for over a decade. The amount of money that we're subsidizing, she could be in a home and it could be paid for, which create a lot of balance in the community when you have less transient people in the community. I'm saying rent $1,800 and we're subsidizing them 3-bedroom, $1,100 to $1,200 when they could buy a $140,000 house and pay $700 in rent and even get tax deduction on the mortgage interest and income. And I know that there are many cities across this country who are using these types of programs to get people in permanent housing instead of renting, because that begins the wealth building process. And what I would like to see with MDHA and with both of your backgrounds with real estate and so forth and private and public partnership is that some type of focus be put on how we can capitalize and utilize some of the federal dollars that we received along with some local participation to get people in permanent housing. In permanent housing, I mean that there is a homeowner, that they have some skin in the game, so to speak, because what we discover is that help balance our schools out. When kids have a place to stay and it's permanent, it cuts down on crime. People are vested in the community when they have an investment in it, when they have some money in it. And I think it creates a more balanced neighborhood. And so while we focus a lot on, getting them in a condo and paying rent and building more rentals, I would like to see us focus more on creating more opportunities for people to purchase homes. And even if it means existing homes that we have already, is to get them in there purchasing one.
Okay.
I agree. Should I respond or?
No, I was just saying, that's my charge to you. As you go through and all these programs come about and we're opening up for more vouchers, that we begin a process to create stronger programs to get people off a voucher system and get people into a home ownership path. And if it means credit, whatever, but I really believe, and I'm not a big advocate of subsidized housing, I believe it should be temporary, not generational. And I think that the path that we need to be on as a city is getting people into homes.
That's great.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
I
Okay.
push that with ours.
All right, then we're going to move right along. As it comes to the appointment of Ms. Kay Bowers.
I'll make a motion for Ms. Kay Bowers for, what is that, whichever term that is, and then a
And
motion
the name
on.
that you can't pronounce,
the-
I'll make a
I'm
mistake.
sorry.
Because I got to abstain.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll make a motion on
I went to
Ms.
her
Bowers.
first, yes.
Second.
Right, all those in approval?
Aye.
So that's all of us.
And I'll
Okay.
abstain.
From this, yes, that is right. Thank you.
And then I'll make a motion on the other man.
Mr. Ansari.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
It was voted and second. All those approve?
Aye.
Any against? Well, yay! Well, thank you all so very much.
It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
It is.
Before you
It
know it,
is.
you'll be pronouncing it.
I know, right? And do you all, this was Kathleen's job, but since it's
I'm
over here, you
taking
need
it.
to ask you.
This is for MDHA,
I
right?
wouldn't feel right about
Yes.
that.
Did y'all ask them they knew what they were getting into? And they both shook their head willingly?
These will get you out of the parking lot.
Are they drinking?
And so while, excuse me,
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
while we are while this is happening, we'd like to ask Ms. Sue Palmer to come up, please, and take the hot seat.
At least my name's easy to pronounce.
And this is for the appointment to the Transportation Licensing Commission for the term expiring October the 10th, 2020. And I have a couple of questions to ask you. Are you residents of Davidson County?
I am.
Are you a voter here in Davidson County?
I am.
Do you belong on any other metro boards or commissions?
I do not.
Okay, well, I tell you what, I'm going to open it up in case some of my committee has any questions, please. All right, I think I see over here, then I see over here.
Thanks.
I haven't seen the questionnaire.
Thanks for your willingness to do this. This is one of the boards and commissions where you're going to know about what's not working right before we do, a lot of times. And in particular, you're going to know about difficulties in addressing problems that might be addressable if we change the rules a little bit. And so I would love it if when you run into a feeling that some case comes through and you end up feeling like, boy, I wish we could have done something, but the rules don't quite match, like, please have Mr. Fields reach out to us directly, tell us what needs to change. And one quick golf carts. Like for a long time, golf carts were behaving very, very poorly and not following the rules. And Metro doesn't really have a lot of resources for enforcing those. And like I literally stood out on a corner and took pictures of ones violating the rules, pursued 2 complaints, and now they pay attention to where they're supposed to be on the streets or not. And so if there's stuff you guys hear, you run into, and like even if it means one of us having to go with a video camera and videoing somebody, like one of us will probably do it. Just let us know what problems you run into. That's not really a question. That's more of a please.
Well, that won't be an issue. I'll probably take the pictures for you.
Even better. Well,
I'll move for approval.
Second.
It has been moved and has been seconded.
Just one-
Is there any
One little question, because I really
conversation?
do appreciate, because this commission is not traditional, taxi cab license any longer. And especially nowadays, SUMD, shared urban mobility device, and that will be a great, discussion, because, under, previous public works chair's lead, we passed the, ordinance. But following that ordinance is difficult, and you are the one who have to enforce it, and I really do appreciate, stepping up to that. And following, council members at large is a comment, please let us know, because, making a resolution is one thing and enforcing is the other. Right. Because everybody follow the way intended, we wouldn't have any problem, but it doesn't work that way. Like, everybody's seeing some lady kind of casually drove into Broadway and, scares every single driver, around there. So I really appreciate, stepping up to that role.
Well, thank you.
All
Happy to
right.
do it.
Are you renewing your motion?
Renew my motion.
Second.
All right. It has been moved and seconded for the appointment of Ms. Sue Palmer to the Transportation Licensing Commission. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please same sign. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Let's took a scooter.
I did not. I kicked a couple in the way, but
Now, there is another matter on the agenda for the committee. And I think this will take a little time. We need to have a conversation about this, however. And just to keep you all aware, so that you can help keep me aware, it's 2 minutes after 6.
Okay.
So as I was like speeding you all along
We
a
have
little
30
bit.
minutes.
The last thing that I heard were 180 applicants for this. And I'm just going to give you a little conversation, and then I'm going to open it because we have to agree with what we're going to do and talk about how we're going to do it. But before everybody starts talking, since I'm the chair, I get to talk first. Okay, so one of the things in the discussion was we can't do it all in one day. And if it comes out to more, like I said, the unofficial one was like, the last thing I heard was 180. So we may have to do it, and with the timing that we have to do it, I was looking at the 8th, 9th, and 10th. So maybe in 3 days. And if that is the case, dividing it all out, those that are good with math, how much time we have for each person. Another thing that we may want to do is to come out with some ground rules, maybe limiting conversations, limiting the different questions. Maybe if folks, other council people have questions or whatever, then the questions have to be submitted to one of the committee members, and then the committee member asks the question so that we can look at the time and how it's going to be done and those type of things. And I do think in this, because there are going to be a whole lot of folks, that some of the ground rules are going to be very, very important. So I am now opening it up for that type of discussion, and our Vice Mayor is here with us as well, and would ask he and Mike to also help us with any of that type of discussion.
So there's a couple things that you do have to do tonight, and obviously Mike is sitting behind me. You need to work on the questionnaire. You need to get that done because that's got to go out tomorrow. But as the council member said, the chair of this committee, you've got 180 people coming through. If you start using the math and you do it for 3 days, you're still going to have to run through these folks fairly quickly. And, you know, I know sometimes we get in the habit, like that first person coming through, you might spend 30 or 45 minutes. You'll be here forever. So the question is, do you want to set some guidelines and some specific questions that you want to ask? Mike, I know I'm more concerned about getting that questionnaire done first. Maybe the right thing to do is for you all to work on the questionnaire, because you can always come back, setting up the rules. Maybe if you do the questionnaire and then just figure out, you're probably going to need 3 days to get this thing done.
I have something for the questionnaire.
Okay, is that on the
Before we go
questionnaire?
there, let me ask one question, basic function. Because traditionally, Rules Committee's role is to recommend. And if, you know, the person who comes before us meet basic qualification, we don't say who's, you know, approved, we don't approve. We just say, yes, indeed, those person meets our qualification. Isn't it our role? Or do we have to kind of grade according to the?
Let's do the questionnaire first.
Okay, back to the questionnaire.
So on the questionnaire, when somebody turns in their nominating form, are they being given back a copy of it?
It doesn't exist yet. They're going to get
The
it.
form that they were nominated, yes, they've already turned that in, and I gotta shake yes, and I gotta shake no.
There is a.
Or vice versa.
There's a form.
The one they filled out.
Okay, yeah, the one that
Whether
they
the
turned
co-
into the clerk.
But the community nominated them, the
So-
signatures.
I guess let's just get, my question is on here it says attach the form. I'm just making sure that they got the form back. And then is question 12, are you an elected official? And question 10, are you an elected official? Question 12, do you hold any public office or position in the metro government? Yada, yada. Could those two be combined to just cut down on?
So in order, the attached to nomination form is the petition that they would have submitted to their nomination form already. So that's,
Okay, so they've got that.
right.
Okay.
And your other two
And then
questions.
10 and 12 being either they could be combined, they look a little duplicate, just trying to save on the 45 questions.
10 is based on, I think you could, 10 is based on the charter amendment language, and 12 is based on an existing charter provision that prohibits your being on a, as it says, remunerative position with the metro government. If that makes sense. So there's a subtle distinction.
I see that, I just wanted to kind of clarify, I just trying to get it less than 4 pages, 45 questions, so, okay.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I know that Mr. Jameson sent out the questionnaire, and then there were like 8 questions, 8 things that people had concerns with. A lot of the information on that questionnaire is just basic questions that you would normally ask. So, but I think you probably need to spend a little bit of time
On the question.
quickly tonight, look into those 8 questions and make sure, because again, based upon what the process is, that questionnaire is supposed to go out tomorrow. Mr. Jameson, you make it,
Yeah.
I
Madam,
know one of them had to do with if you had ever done a felony or.
Right.
What do you have to
No,
do with
why
that?
don't we start from
You just go through the
Yeah,
list.
go through the list.
Madam Chair, if it's easier, Mike's probably got the list, he can just run through them and then you can figure out how you want to proceed.
In order,
That'd be
the
fine.
first question was 23, which asks about the business address. I think the concern is, why is that required? It's not required, but why is that asked?
Oh, you got the notes.
I don't know who submitted the business address. Was it the intention to get the employee address? Is that what the business meant, like your employee and where they're located? I don't know if that was, is that what you're thinking, like if that's the intent, was just to, like, if you're employed, the location, is it in Davidson County? I don't know if that was the intention or not.
But it is one that they don't have to answer.
It's optional.
And I would point out, in reviewing this application, since I was nominated or affirmed to do this, one of the things that I did is make a recommendation that we move all the optional questions below the line so that people can answer those at their discretion, and that would help facilitate some of the conversation. So I really appreciate the putting responses to the following questions are optional for all nominees. So if they don't want to list their business address or disclose anything about their criminal record, if they have one or not, then they can do so. If that alleviates anyone who wants to remove some of these questions, I don't know if it does or not.
My opinion about this is that we are boxed in by the January 31st deadline in the charter to get this done. This is a first time we've ever done this as a city. I know for sure we're not going to make everybody in Davidson County happy with every single question. I feel like part of the process of the last meeting and the work that Council Lady Dowell put into it is there's no getting around it. It's at least pretty good, maybe better than pretty good. And I would just say, let's just do it. And then maybe a year from now, when there's different ones, we can regroup on it.
I was going to say, I agree too. I reviewed some other cities, and one of the things they said is that this is required, this is below the line, and if they want to disclose it.
Well, I think that's good.
So I'll for approval. Do you want us to take a vote on this?
The rule says adopted, adopted by the Rules Committee, so a motion.
Okay, so we do have to.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
This has been moved and approved and
To
seconded to adopt the questionnaire. All those in favor, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the approval, you have it.
Oh, you did a great job. Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Thanks a lot.
it is.
Thanks for doing that.
That part is
Thanks for volunteering.
So now we still kind of have to have a fast conversation about how we're going to do it. And I'm a big proponent for ground rules, and somebody even offered to me we may even want to have a timer because we do have some folks who maybe like to talk a bit. So let's have a conversation about how do you want to do that. If some of the questions that are on here that you want to make sure are asked, that you want to say, okay, maybe the chair has to ask these particular ones like I do when we have folks come out, to make sure that those get done, and then how people talk, how long we should have to do it, and
The thing that jumps out at me is that even at 3 days of just doing the math, 3 days, 10 hours a day, it's 10 minutes a person at the most. And like, I mean, I've looked at the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Like, I unfortunately am like completely out of pocket for 1.5 of those days. And so that's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be
I've got a trial all day on one of those days.
Do we have to have a quorum for then the 8th, we might need to do a doodle poll then.
Well, but more importantly than that is, like, even if we found 3 full days with a quorum, then we're down to 10 minutes a person, assuming we work 10 hours at it each day, which is, I mean, that's, and even then, if we pick out, like, we really want to know the answers to 5 questions, I mean, so we're going to give them like 2.5 minutes to answer, and then we get to ask what we want for a few minutes. That's really challenging, and I'm not sure I've got I mean, I don't have any good ideas.
And you know, that was my next question after you said it was challenging. Okay, so we've got to come up with something though. Council Lady?
I was looking at how other cities approach this as a way of looking at it. One of the things that they did, and I don't know if we can do this by our rules, but some of the questions that we asked, like, are you a Davidson County resident, all of those things, if they've completed those things on the application, is it necessary that we ask them those questions again? Is that, okay, so we, in vetting the applications and information they turned in, this is what another city did. They vetted, they went through there and checked and confirmed all of that, and they created a couple of questions that, for fairness, that they asked each candidate. It was maybe 3 questions at the most, and they asked every candidate the same 3 questions. They utilized the information they had in the back to evaluate it. The other thing that they did was, in conversations with those oversight people who wanted to have this board put in place, talked to them and got a ranking of what's most important to them in having someone on the board. It's like, qualifications, personality, skill set, background. We have some of that information already, but what's most important, and they actually use scoring sheets, and I don't know if that's something we want to do, but they actually use scoring sheets to kind of score as people came in. It was maybe 8 boxes on their scoring sheet. It was nothing. They had 0 through 5, and they put those together, and then they made their recommendation based upon that scoring sheet, the criteria that the community was looking for in electing and appointing someone on those boards, and it helped go through the process a lot faster. So those are my recommendations as to how we can approach it, having a scoring sheet, not asking those questions, and having, a uniform number of questions we ask each person that come in.
Okay,
I
Council
think
Lady?
it's very important to know what the community is really looking for, the people that were very adamant about us having this board. But I had a few people to ask me to sponsor them, and I interviewed them. Okay, I just, okay, if I'm going to sponsor you, you need to sit down and talk to me. And one of the questions I asked, and we have it here, why do you want to be on this board? And I found their answers very intriguing, and I'm surmised and came away with a certain frame of thinking just based on why do you want to be on this board. So in formulating or prioritizing possibly the three questions, I think one would be, why do you want to be on this board? And what qualifies you to be a member of this board?
So, but what if they're duplicate from what they've written?
Pardon?
So we've got these questions, briefly explain your interests, the reasons you wish to serve. So if we've got that here, do we want to if they're duplicate? What do you think?
Can I speak?
Yes, and then I did see you
okay.
when she started talking, so after that, I would like to go to Council Lady.
I think unequivocally, because this might say, why do you want to be on it? And I said, girl, could you write down why I want to be on it? And it's a whole different, it's different to have a person to sit before you and tell why.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I feel that way.
Council Lady.
So I think I agree with limiting like 3 questions, and one of which is why you need to be on the board, and 2 other is their experience about the civil rights and justice system. Because that's in the charter amendment, they're particularly mandate with those experience. So we have to create the question to highlight their qualification in that area, literally meet with the, charter amendment.
Okay, so help me again. I think I heard, you said 3, but then I didn't hear but 2. Why and what qualifies them as it relates to the civil rights and justice system?
Yeah.
The experience, so that's 2.
2 separate.
Okay.
Civil rights, 1.
Okay, and justice,
system.
okay, so that's those 3, okay. Yes.
So I really like the idea of carving out the basic 3. I like the idea of getting 3 questions to 4, some small, manageable, that we'd publish in advance. And so, in like 10 minutes per person would be, 30 hours. So I'm thinking more like 5 minutes person or something where they'd know the questions and they got 5 minutes to address and they can allocate the time among the questions any way they want. The scoring, I think, given the holidays, I think we might have to, I might suggest we save that for, a next year on this, because I'm not sure how to get consensus. We don't have any meetings between now and the new year. I don't know how to get consensus on the scoring sheet. So I'm not sure about that, but I love the other 2 ideas, and the suggestions for questions I think are good. They go to the core of, they're open-ended, they go to the core of what it is. People can push those answers in whatever direction they want.
I've got Councilman Roden over here, but let me try to clarify something first. What we've been talking about that we agree to, and this is just in our conversation, 3 questions, and it should be why, what qualifies you under your civil rights, and then your justice system, and then keeping it to about 5 minutes per person. Councilman Roden?
And
No more than 5 minutes.
No
yeah,
more than
I think, following up on the 5 minutes thing, I think the logistics of this is going to be our main issue, trying to get this done with all of our time. I know Bob and I forget whoever's on finance, we have, when we have budget, we do it at night. We do it from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock every night, and then we could probably schedule, if we did it at night, that way, like I have a trial one of the days that you mentioned, I have to have an all-day trial, there's no way I can be here. I would like to be here for every single person that steps up there. It's my job, and I'd like to do that. If we did it from like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the evening till 8 o'clock, like, Monday,
I
Wednesday.
think we were thinking about maybe even starting later.
I mean, however we could do it and then do it a couple hours on the weekend but we can split them up. Obviously, we have the names, we can split them up and say, you come on this day, you come on this day, you come on this day, and take 25.
And if you miss I'm sorry for talking.
No, but that's kind of my thought, rather than setting it up for like 3, because 3 days, by the time we get to after lunch, we're all gonna be sitting here, falling out.
Okay, I'm gonna go back, because I'm not sure if what you were talking about has to do with him, or would you,
No.
because you had raised your hand.
He
Okay.
said-
I would like to follow up Kevin's, recommendation. We can ask applicant, the preferable timetable. I'm available this and such a day, this time slot, and I'm available this and so we can, take
Give
turn.
them, so
Yeah, give
what we're
them-
talking about is giving them particular days,
Right.
and then they sign up for a slot at that time.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then we'll try our best to hit. What if they say they can't do any of those times?
Right.
Logistically,
They don't want to be on.
this is going to be, interesting the way this works. Because if you've got 180 people, and let's say you do pick 3 days, and you start at 5 o'clock and you just go, people have to be here on time. If you're going to give them 3 questions in advance, they've got 5 minutes, and they need to be here and be ready to go, and then the next person comes up, and so we're going to be pushing people. To get them to sign up, we're going to have to think through how we do that. What happens, Councilmember Murphy, if somebody can't pick one of those 3 days? We said that they have to show up at some point. They have to come through this committee. So I'm not sure how we do that. They've got to get here on one of those, if you have 3 days on one of those.
And it was my suggestions for 3 days. We never agreed just 3 days, so, yes, Councilman.
We can't have a sign up. People got to get assigned a time, I think. I mean, alphabetical order.
It's an important enough committee. If you want to be on the committee, you'll make time to come to this.
And I will say, Councilmember Mendes is probably right, because if you have a sign-up sheet, we'll be chasing 180 people down trying to find time. We're just going to have to take the list and say, this is when you come. And that may not necessarily be the best way to do it, but you've got 180 people that are coming through this committee. There has got to be some process in place or you'll never get through.
Council Lady Haywood, and then I have Council Lady.
I think you have that time slot that kind of overlaps in terms of maybe like 4 or whatever, because some people work in the mornings, afternoon. I think it should be an overlapping time. And I almost think it should just be first come, first serve. Whoever gets here first, just take them and keep it steady moving.
And give them a number when they walk in?
Yeah, I really do. Yeah.
I guess that might be tough on our staff. I mean, 180 people line up outside. I think we saw it
they do
happen
them
on
on
like
3 different days.
We do them on 3 days. That's not 180 people.
60.
And Council Lady Dowell, I believe, was next.
Yeah, I'm not a big advocate of organized chaos, to let you know. I like order, and I do believe what I would recommend that we do. I know I have 0 availability during the day hours right now with the holidays and so forth, so I won't be able to going into the next year. I don't have any vacation time left. I've utilized it all, so I won't be able to come during the day. So evenings will work better for me, or Saturday. I would recommend that we go from like 4 o'clock to maybe 9. And we can select what days, and then also perhaps, do a Saturday, because one Saturday morning or afternoon, that can catch everybody who missed and couldn't come any other time on a Saturday. But set those days up, allow people the opportunity to make an appointment. If we list it from 4 o'clock to 9, we can say we're doing X amount of slots on this day, X amount of slots on that day. They can call in, make an appointment. They can stop by, make an appointment. They can show up and make an appointment. But I don't like just telling people to come and we don't know who's going to be here. I would like to know that on Tuesday, we're looking at these 40 people and I've been able to review their applications and all of that prior to them coming in and have some kind of background knowledge, because I'm hoping that during this interview process, it will help facilitate my decision about who I vote for when we're on the floor and we're electing those people. So I really want to, have a list. And the people that submitted applications, I don't think it would be too much of a challenge for them to establish an appointment.
And I will put out there, though, as you were giving your time, I would vote for 5 to whatever time we're doing, because that's a little better for folks having to work and have appointments to get off and get here. And I know it would be for me.
Well, what about the people
Any
working
other?
the evening?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
you talking about for us? Oh.
Yes.
Madam Chair, so we start council session in 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
All right, so this is obviously very, very important, and everything that you're saying is almost crucial to getting this stuff right. So I don't know if you're going to be able to finish this in 5 minutes.
We probably will not, but we can probably agree on the things that we have already agreed upon.
Okay, so the question, what I was asking Mr. Jameson was, the main thing you had to do tonight was get that questionnaire done, and you've got it, so that's great. The question is, do you want to, I just asked Mr. Jameson if it's okay, do you want to adjourn until after we finish our council meeting and then come back and finish the discussion so you've got it?
Yes, sir.
I mean, we can. I was going to suggest that we've got a bunch of ground rules. We've got to keep it to 5 minutes. We've got the 3 questions. We're going to pre-vet the are you a registered voter stuff. The idea of knowing a certain number of people per day, I think we agree on. The 5 to 9 we agree on. That maybe a Saturday if necessary. And so I was going to, at least for consideration, make a motion to have the committee chair and Mr. Jameson take those guidelines and figure out the process, because I think that's enough guidelines where.
Second.
And real quick, if I might add just one thing, Madam Chair. I was just quick in my head. We do 45, 45, 45, 45. That gives us the 180. And that gives you 4-hour blocks at about a little less than 6 minutes apiece. We're going to have breaks. And you know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking you're going to need 4 days to go through. And I think anything more than 40 or 45 in a day, we're all just going to be falling out on the floor saying that's enough.
But on my motion, I wanted to, I didn't just want to volunteer you for that.
I just did.
I seconded it.
Yeah, well, we have the motion. The motion is on the floor, so.
I mean, the discussion point would be, if you'd rather us come back afterwards and talk about it some more, then that's cool.
No, you already volunteered me, so I accept that, and we've got 3 minutes. So all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that will make it so. And Mike, I know you have that written all down, and we will get together. And yes, Mr.
Thank you. One last question. So it sounds like we're going to have to do a Google Calendar or something, or whatever that thing is. We're going to doodle calendar.
I'll doodle you.
Yeah, okay. So the idea is if you're looking for 4 days now, not everybody's going to be able to come every day with 4 days. But we're going to have to figure out fairly quickly when those either 3 days or 4 days is going to be. The only other question is the 3 questions that you want to ask. So, Councilmember
She already
Mendez,
gave them.
so they're all good?
Why did you want to be on here? What are your qualifications?
They're all on here too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody's good?
And I know we're after the thing, but I was going to say, if it makes it easier, we could put everybody in alphabetical order and just say A through this, come on this day, B through this, come on this day, whatever. And if there's an issue based upon last name, then we can, do that catch-up date, like a day to catch up.
So
but
we'll
that would
talk
make it
about that,
easier.
Mike. Okay. Did I hear a motion to?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
One last question. Will it be on the Metro YouTube channel?
Questionnaire?
The interview?
We can arrange that.
Yes, because so all other council members can watch it.
If they don't want to be here with us.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? You are adjourned. Thank you so very much.
Vice Mayor.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, Or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.